Fred. We're going to change over to Q&A with Patrick. And in fact, if you're going to stay around, Fred, you can even ask some questions to him. Come on, drill him too. So,
all right, let me hear a few. I don't know how much time I've got,
okay.
but let me see.
This is from about beta testing. Do you think holders will still burn project tokens when they have access to burn their own debt instead?
Yeah, good question.
So the good thing about our new voting system is you'll be able to designate percentages of your holdings to go towards different accounts. So some people are going to want to put it all towards debts, understandably, and that will probably be the bulk of it right away.
Yeah.
As those users who have been in Reaper for a minute or two start to kind of mature in the way they've already handled their debts, they'll probably start to branch out into what that can also do for their holdings of other tokens as well. And then we'll still have the hard slotted tokens, which are projects that own Reapers solely for the purpose of reaping their own project. So they're still going to vote for those projects. And then also, if the value of Reaper is greater because debt reaping has launched, then the value that is going towards reaping other projects may still be greater or, relative to what it is now, despite the fact people will move to reaping their own debts.
So let me ask you a question, Fred. Obviously, you've been in the space for a few years, right? So how enthused are you about this whole Reaper.Financial? This ecosystem is by far the most complex ecosystem that I've seen in digital currency. I mean, the way that it's set up with the hard slots and the rain and the distributed Reaper income payment. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I love it. I still have to call Patrick from time to time and have him explain things to me because it can get so far above my head that I'm like, all right, I just understood this level of the project, and now you're doing what to me? He's like, oh, I'm doing these 7 other things, and I'm like, oh my gosh. All right, hold on, let's set up another call so you can talk to me about it. So it's just phenomenal, and that was another reason why he reached out and said we got to get this Amicus in, because it's so incredibly different than what's going on. And it's an amazing shot that he's doing, is that you want to get that, convey that to the court, like look at what's going on here. And I like how I definitely was pumping him up. He got a little shot from a confidence booster from David Schwartz about reading the Amicus and what was going on, and now a lot more people know about what's going on. So I don't know how much I'm going to apportion eventually, when I vote outside of my own debt when it's possible. I still have a little bit left. So I'm actually really interested to see how that plays out. But I mean, at the end of the day, the whole point is it's all controlled by the RPR token holders. So they do what they want with the Reaper, and that's the mechanism of death, is that it'll come swiftly to those that deserve it most.
With the Reaper, and that's the mechanism of death, is that it'll come swiftly to those that deserve it most.
Indeed.
And one thing to remind our listeners too is that when the beta opens up, we're still assuming December, right, Patrick?
So we're still on track for December. The December 1st deadline for a closed beta is a little bit flexible, but we should be at a open beta by December 19th currently, either way. So we are on track, but there's testing that needs to happen.
Sure.
So just a reminder too is that the people who do the beta testing are going to have to be fully KYC'd, right?
Yes, that's correct. So once you log in to pull in your liabilities, we're not just going to have you KYC'd through the regular system that's going to be your full name and address, phone number, that kind of thing, date of birth. But when you pull your liabilities, we're going to see your full identity information from your bank, which is going to include your social security number, your date of birth, your home address, all of that information. So we would get that either way, but part of why we're doing both a KYC and identity verification when you use the Plaid plugin is that's going to give us a verification that says the same person that owns this is the same person receiving this money. And with that, we're able to, put that as part of our anti-money laundering policy and our combating financing terrorism policies to make sure that we are compliant with, that the real laws, none of that SEC stuff, but the actual laws that matter.
That wasn't a jab anywhere. That wasn't a jab anywhere.
Yeah. Fred, what's your take on that artwork that Dale dressed up for you?
I'm glad. I was thinking, where did I need to interrupt somebody before I got off to say that you were reading my mind. I loved it. Patrick sent it to me out of the blue, and I'm like, who did this? This is great. And he's like, Dale did it. I'm like, who's Dale? And then that's how I found out about Limitless. So I thought it was awesome.
It's going to turn into a really nice NFT for you. Thank you for that compliment. And I think you'll be saying thank you when we get this thing all done for you. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. What we're going to do, I think, and we're going to talk to Patrick about it, is we're going to kind of implement it into the decentralized justice coin set. And I have some ideas, Patrick, but we'll talk about that on a at a different time.
Too easy.
Yeah.
All right, here we go with the next question, Pat. Those with little or no debt, can they get the same dollar amount in Reaper that they would have received in debt reaping?
Interesting.
So no. So the reason for that is because the debt reaping itself is the utility. If we just start paying people instead of paying the liabilities and the debts, effectively it would ruin the ecosystem and the why it works and the larger purpose. So people that don't have any debt can still benefit very greatly from this. And I'm not by any means telling anyone to take out debt. However, if you were to take for example, a loan on a cash flow property, something like a quadruplex or a fourplex, and reap that debt, which you would still be able to do, then not only are the renters paying off the property, but now you also have your mortgage and your margins widening as that gets paid down. Sure. So now you're still accumulating wealth through that same system. You're just a step ahead of where those who do have inherent debt are currently at.
Q4, ASC allows reign of Reaper when it's on the vote list. This is the benefit owning both. You can vote for reduction and accumulation at the same time. Can you kind of explain those two things that came out there?
Yes. So the voting list for the hard slot tokens includes both ASC and RPR. So by owning RPR, you're able to vote on either RPR, ASC, or any of the other hard slot tokens or tokens that come up on the randomizer. And then by owning ASC, you are going to receive in proportion to the vote those RPR or ASC tokens as well. So owning both is definitely a best case scenario because they're complementary to one another.
Now, also, I just found out this evening, right, speaking with you before, that as far as the hard slot projects go, the reign only kicks in. So the rewards only kick in when you have a base value of 500 XRP for each one of those hard slots, right?
So that's only on the StakeX platform. So if you're simply holding those trust lines, you don't have to own any of the hard slots at all to receive that reign. If you're doing StakeX staking in the ASC StakeX pairing, then you're able to stake your equal value of XRP to equal value ASC. So whatever higher or whichever balance is lower, that's the total amount of XRP value you have staked. And with that, you're going to receive daily reign, passive income, or drips of the hard slot tokens. But for those hard slot tokens to pay out, they're going to be paying out 10% of the balance daily over the 14-day period. So it comes to about 77% of whatever's in the pool gets distributed over the 14 days because that 10% is reducing day by day. But for that to pay out, the minimum balance of that token needs to have a value of 500 XRP in the pool, but that doesn't mean that the end user has to have 500 XRP worth.
It will still accumulate for them, and then when it does finally set, it will distribute to them.
Yes. So they will get it eventually either way. It just may be that one or two of the tokens, they don't have much in that pool, maybe waiting until they pass that 500 XRP value before they distribute. So you still get the same amount as went into that pool either way.
But it'll be kind of like a downpour at that point, right?
It won't be a rain, it'll be a torrential downpour. Yeah, no doubt.
Yep.
And so this is where the three of you make me feel like a little bit of an idiot, because I was following it generally, and then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm getting a little bit lost. And then James, you're like, all right, got it. And then you did some like perfect follow-up, and I'm like, there's another phone call that I have to I've got to hold my hand and walk you through this.
This was difficult for me, okay? Prior to digital assets, I knew nothing about this world. And like, it took me 8 months of like drilling myself with terminology to be able to get up to speed. And I'm still like a preschooler compared to some of these other folks out there. So don't feel so bad.
Well,
yeah, well, I mean, and Patrick does a great job too of explaining, so it's not on him. I mean, I've seen some other projects out there where I have just seen them, and I'm like, I can't even get started on this. And now, to be fair, because a lot of them are rugs, and they don't make any sense at all, so they are scams. That's why I don't get it. But sometimes when people start getting really hardcore on it, especially the techies, it does take a little moment for me to figure it out.
I'll tell you one thing that this is going to do. This is going to create a real solid faith and security in a world right now that's just completely full of risk, and everybody is scared to make any kind of decisions. Like this whole process between block oversight and the ascension reign, like it's just incredible. It really is. It really is.
Well, I'm gonna drop off. Is that okay?
Yeah, we honor you, man. Thank you for being here with us, brother.
All right. Well, thanks, Patrick. Thanks for putting me in touch with these two guys. And I love the artwork, and we'll catch up later next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Fred.
All right. Bye, everyone.
So long, brother. That was awesome.
All right. Here's the next one. This is actually 3. Give us your take on FTX, and can you reap FTT?
So FTX, I do think that the Sam Bankman-Fried saga fiasco, it's very much on the surface a money laundering operation.
Oh yeah,
that's that's not a conspiracy theory. It's just a point of fact that money went from U.S. Congress to Ukraine, which put that money into FTX, which then took loans on money that was no longer there and gave that money back to members of Congress. So that's not a conspiracy. That's a closed loop. So burden of proof is met on that. So it very much is exactly what it looks like, and it's disturbing on many levels. As far as what I reap FTT, absolutely not. So the larger ones that have these huge issues, it was a struggle with Lunacy as well, Lunacy, because after these big debacles, we have a model that would really help them in those big debacles to purchase and burn the tokens. However, we have to ensure that we're not encouraging our users to go out and buy those tokens when there's still significant risk. Yeah. With Luna, we were able to bring Luna Classic in once it became a DAO and is no longer minting, because then it made sense to do so. Sure. With FTT, it's still completely exposed like a nerve, and it's more likely to die of natural causes, and the Reaper will come by and look at it and laugh and then keep on walking.
All right, next question. Do you believe Ripple and XRP are the future of finance?
So I'll say that Ripple and XRP are the future base layer of finance. And I'll even take this as far as to say that they are the current base layer of finance. There's a thing with business where you're either, you know, making money or losing money, and you're either advancing or you're failing, right?
Yeah.
So even the biggest, you know, Fortune 500 companies generally only last 40 to 45 years. And I think that Ripple is in its upswing, and it's going to become the base layer. However, it's kind of like the how do I say this? It's the ISP, or the dial modem of the internet in the early days, and I am sure they're going to innovate, and they're going to continue to build for years. But there'll be a lot built on top of that, such as Reaper and many other projects. And those projects built on top of XRP, those are the future of finance. Ripple is the now of finance.
Touche. What a great way to answer that. Wow. I never looked at it from that perspective, but that was awesome. Touche.
So you've hinted on the Telegram group about this liquidity hub project. Can you say anything more about that? And then I think we covered the bank.
Yeah. So the liquidity hub I hinted about, I was talking mainly about Ripple Swell, and they did release quite a few partners using the liquidity hub already. So Ripple's liquidity hub is effectively a way for instant cross-border settlement, whereas currently the banking systems use what's called nostro vostro accounts, and there's literally billions and sometimes trillions of dollars sitting in those accounts, so that somebody in Japan can send money and wire it to, you know, somebody in California, and instead of that money actually going from point A to point B, it goes from point A to the nostro vostro, and then the nostro vostro distributes to point C. So the liquidity hub basically solves that issue on a global scale, and they're starting to roll that out. And I expect that Ripple will probably become a main exchange, or a main global exchange, competing on the level of Binance or greater, after clarity is met within the market.
What kind of valuation for our RPR and AS is by 2030?
So 2030 is definitely a ways out there, and I'm only to phase 18, which right now takes us to you know, about 2035. But I'll put it this way. So I brought this up in the Link2 interview I just did with Link2 and Val Hill and John Deaton and some of the Amicus briefs. So Social Security is 7.65% of your paycheck, and your employer is forced to match that. So you're talking 15.3% of your pay getting taken out, going into Social Security and Medicare, in a format which has basically been pulled out the back door for years and years, and it might go under and be bankrupt within just a few years from now. They're going to have to keep printing inflationary money, throwing it into Social Security so that they can, you know, prop up a dying system. Now, the Democrats in America, the left, all want social welfare programs, and there's merit to that. Social welfare programs help the socioeconomically disadvantaged to stay off the bottom, and by doing that, it reduces crime, because there's no greater indication of crime than a socioeconomic status. The Republicans are very much against that, in the sense that they want people to get, you know, for their money what they pay for. They want the representation, and I am in agreement with both crowds. So the 2030 plan for Reaper.Financial is, at some point, we convince the government that there is a better system that could replace Social Security and Medicare. And that system is something that you could use right now, and it would reduce your debts, and it would help you earn a passive income, and you don't have to wait till you're 75 to draw on it. And that system is the Reaper economic system. So we would like to merge this system into government to replace other social welfare systems by 2030.
Let me ask you a question. Have you, I mean, of course you don't have to answer, but have you been, I mean, you've mentioned before that you have some WEF contacts. Have you been approached by anybody outside of your normal realm of people that you deal with about this thing that you've already built and that?
So I have been approached by a few different people at high levels, and they've all been very impressed. They generally say congratulations on creating something totally original.
Yeah.
And I've met no opposition to it at the high levels of that organization. And I don't think that they have a true motivation to be opposed to it. This does not in any way threaten them. It assists not just the regular person on the streets, but them as well. There's a massive global problem with $322 trillion in debt, and governments and banks and even the World Economic Forum, they all need and want what I've built.
Yeah. Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
All right. Thank you for that.
What else you got there?
When Reaper Bank is open, will loans be available with debt reaping on loans, debit cards, credit cards? What other financial services are they considering offering initially?
So yes, all of those could be basically secured and secured with a balance of Reaper that would be held by the bank against that loan or against that credit card or against that mortgage upon taking the loan.
Nice.
So it would basically be a difference between the actual retail value and the loan to value, and somewhere within that difference, instead of adding interest and adding non-positive things for the user and the bank, because interest rates, and most people don't realize this, interest rates are a very high risk thing to banks for lending. Yeah. So the higher the interest rate, the worse it is for the bank, because now they have less chance of ever recouping those funds. So for Reaper Bank, we could essentially drop our interest for the bank to zero, because we wouldn't be making our money in the same way a traditional bank does. We'd be making our money through our RPR holdings and through the passive income off those RPR holdings. So that means that the user who is taking the loan can then get it secured by RPR. And the fact that they're using RPR to their benefit benefits us. So it's a mutually beneficial system in which we aren't taking advantage and they aren't being put in a bad position.
Could somebody potentially buy, I mean, not everybody has buku bucks to spend. Somebody puts in a few $100s in Reaper right now, a few $100 in Ascension right now. They begin voting properly. They optimize their position. Reaper continues to grow. Ascension continues to grow. Within a relatively short period of time, I mean, a couple years, somebody could potentially turn this into a full-time gig, like creating a dividend nice enough where they don't have to do anything else.
Potentially. Of course, I don't want to give any price predictions, but
Sure.
Part of what I'm solving with this system is automation and robotics. And we're looking at a advancement level of humanity where within the next 20 to 50 years, most of humanity is no longer going to qualify or need to be in the traditional workforce.
Sure.
They're simply not going to produce anything that can't be produced by automation or robotics. So with the Reaper economic system, you would be able to effectively work for much shorter time periods in your life. So potentially anywhere from 2 to 10 years. And with that, you would save up enough RPR token to then be able to borrow debt in the future and be able to earn a passive income. And that in and of itself would allow for up to 85% of humanity to leave the workforce and still maintain and sustain the system when we have things like Optimus and Starlink and these OpenAI and people that will be augmented with Neuralink. And I know all these things sound very sci-fi, but
they're very real. I know that. Yeah,
they're very real. Within 20 years, most people are just not going to be necessary to the workforce. There's just not going to be any reason to give them a job.
How long, I mean, how far out have you actually thought this? I mean, it sounds like you've put some serious long-term, you know, short-term, mid-range, and long-term thinking into this whole process.
I've thought it out quite far, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
X phases are in the white paper. X meaning 10. 10 phases are in the white paper. How many more? And it looks like 12 is your favorite. Why?
So currently I have 18 phases planned. There will be more in the planning stages. Phase 12 is my favorite because it's important to go back if you want to go forward. And that's all I can say about that one right now, because it's very technologically intensive, and the technology concerned is in the early stages of development. So it will be very advanced in a way that I think nobody would even believe if I said it out loud right now. So I'll just hold that one to myself till it's ready to go.
Are we talking one of those future proves past situations?
The future most certainly proves the past.
Amen. Amen.
All right, here we go.
Incredible stuff to hear, my brother. Incredible stuff to hear. Yeah.
Number 10. Here we go. The major concerns some have is that Reaper is not a black hole project, but you said that you gave up the right to freeze any assets, which makes you officially decentralized. Can you elaborate on that for us?
That's correct. So we can still mint tokens, and that's part of our tokenomics. So you are effectively trusting in specifically me that I'm not going to mint 100 million tokens and dump the price. Now, I will say that any project that owns, you know, more than 5% of their supply in the dev wallet could do the same thing and take all the liquidity regardless of the ability to continue to mint. So the ability to mint doesn't actually change anything for us, but it does change the trust structure. So I am the only person with the keys, and I'm the only person with the ability to mint. And so you are effectively putting faith in me to stay to the standard of 1 million tokens per month. And, you know, just for clarity's sake, it used to be 1%. In August, we dropped it to 1 million. In case you feel like being a sleuth and going back through the logs, that is why. So the non-black hole, I don't consider that to be a threat myself, obviously. And I think that it is very comparable to any mineable cryptocurrency. If you look at Doge or Ethereum, where they're consistently putting out more supply, they're just doing it in a much less efficient manner than we are. And with that, they're getting their funds for Ethereum, and for those miners, they're paying a fee in gas fees, which are horrible. And that's how Ethereum makes their money. We make our money in a much more, I think, honest and direct way to generate funds to do good with. And then we did give up the right to freeze. So the reason that makes us decentralized is because if James and Dale both own RPR and decide to trade amongst each other, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. Anything that is on the DEX is openly traded, and Reaper.Financial owns our own supply of developer tokens that have been decreasing as we use them. But that is effectively the same as any other holder out there owning them. And somebody could buy up a greater supply than ours if they wanted to.
With Reaper.Financial, you guys are being super transparent and displaying it, but explaining why. In fact, you tweeted something out today that I retweeted, and I said, this is transparency. Like, you guys moved the funds, right? The trust, you moved the trust from a exchange to a hardware wallet, right? Is that correct?
That's correct. So we did that primarily out of caution, given the FTX SBF drama that's been going on and the potential fallout on other centralized exchanges. So we moved those funds to a hardware wallet, and because that fund is a trust fund, Reaper.Financial is only the trustee. RPR holders are the beneficiary. So RPR holders naturally have a right to know what happens with that fund. So us moving it, I consider that a mandatory reporting situation in which, you know, the RPR holders have a right to know where those funds are being stored and safeguarded.
Yeah, you wrote, out of an abundance of caution, Reaper.Financial has temporarily moved the permanent trust fund to a hardware wallet following the instability of the centralized exchanges due to the SBF FTX fiasco. And then I wrote, this is called transparency and should be used as an example for all of the centralized exchanges out there crumbling because of the misuse of customer funds.
Well, the other thing that could be used, that they could use, is a staking stuff that you've come up with, where it's staying in our wallet. It's not going to somebody else, and you're not using a synthetic, right?
That's correct. We're not using any synthetic go-betweens. We're not custodying your funds. We don't want to ever custody any user funds for any reason as a company. That's just not something that is even appealing to us, to be blunt. And that's the right way to do it. That's how cryptocurrency was designed. And as far as our exchange that we're building, the exchange will never hold any customer funds on the exchange. So it will still interact with self-custodial wallets in a similar fashion to a DEX.
You soft stake in your own wallet. No, you don't give anybody access to your funds. They're yours. They stay there. You can do with them as you please whenever you want. So
the way it will work is simply by staking ASC to StakeX. You'll receive both ASC and all of the hard slotted tokens, which includes Reaper, StakeX, and with Reaper you'll receive XRP. So you'll be receiving basically everything you receive with ASC itself.
That's just incredible. I've never seen a model like this, man. I'm so excited to see how this thing starts to play out, because then, in the community, everybody's so interactive with each other. And so we'll be able to figure out optimal way to position and readjust and move, and just fantastic, man. Good on you, Patrick. I'm so honored to be in this community with you.
So, in a follow-up question to that, and I agree wholeheartedly with that, is that what would you have us say to people that's maybe in our community who are saying, well, I have this other place over there, and they wanted me to mint to a synthetic, a derivative. What would you say what should we say, or help those people that want to do that?
So I would tell them to focus, and I think focus on ascension.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so in other words, you're taking a bigger risk if you're gonna have somebody else keep your XRP and mint it into an FXRP then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so first and foremost, Flare is not an XRP asset. It is still an ERC20 asset. Yeah. So a lot of people have a misunderstanding about that. And Flare itself and Songbird, there's a whole lot of shady going on there. And I hate to say it, because I myself was expecting Flare to do very well and was hoping, but sometimes too good to be true is most definitely the case. And with Flare, it's not that they couldn't do it, it's that the leadership isn't doing it, and we've had 2 years of proof of that. So it's time to move on to bigger and better things.
Move on to ascension.
Technically, we're really not losing anything other than time, because it was just dealing with the Songbird is a different story. A lot of people got involved and bought, but if you were just waiting on an airdrop, you could, that's still a couple months away. You can push that to the side and focus on the task at hand. Right now, we can position ourselves to leverage with these assets that we have right now and compound and start doing. By the time that happens, who knows what's going to go on with that? But this is what we could do right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's it for us. Any closing remarks from the judge and the jury and everybody else?
I guess I'll just say, Patrick, I get excited to do these weekly chats with you, and once we kind of get this situated, we'll be able to have the other hard slot projects. I already have 2 of them lined up, and I started speaking with Chaos Dubs, and he's also very much aligned with doing the same thing. So we're gonna see if we can work together and create awareness about what's happening, and do it in a way where, you know, we're working as a team, as a network. So, you know, I'm just excited and I'm honored, and thank you for your time, big brother.
Thank you, James.
And a special thanks to Fred for coming on as well.
No doubt.
Sanctuary for Elijah down at the brook, and there allowed him to lay in the cool shade and drink from the brook of the